Hello, how are you? Sean Ferrick here for What Culture Horror, and today I'm going to be discussing Smile 2, Parker Finn's new film that has just been released in theaters. This is going to be a full spoiler review, okay? So if you haven't seen the film, and folks, I really recommend you watching this film. I do want you to pause this right now, go and watch it, and then come back, because there's just so much to talk about in this film. Okay, so I want to give you full warning. You have been told we will be discussing spoilers. I don't want you to get spoiled if you haven't seen it. Warning has been given. Smile 2 is Parker Finn's follow-up to his earlier Smile, which itself was an extension of the short film Laura Hasn't Slept. The conceit is that an entity possesses a person after having forced them to watch a violent suicide by the previous victim. They will then haunt the victim in the form of specters who smile at you until they basically drive you mad and, bad things happen. Smile was an effective, small-scale little horror. There was gore, there was tension to the max, and there was really strong performances across the board. It was a nice little surprise. And I will be honest, when I heard that they were doing a sequel, my heart sank. I thought, oh no, don't do the Hollywood thing. Don't just be like, well, that film did well, ergo, we must do a cash grab sequel. So, I then saw the first trailer and I thought, oh no, here's what they've done. They've gone, we'll throw a load of money at it and we'll ratchet the budget up and it'll be all slick and stylish. And it's going to lose that charm of that little, small scale horror. Yeah, I was wrong. So this film, Smile 2, they did what I feel was a super smart turn on a dime for this franchise. But instead of just rehashing the first film, which I thought they were at risk of doing, that is not what they've done at all. While, yes, the same threat is present from the first film, they've taken it in such a different direction and put such a different lens on it that I feel it is an absolute triumph of a sequel. I was speaking to a friend last night just after I'd seen it, obviously before I've recorded this, and I went, that's how you do a sequel. That's how you do a sequel. Naomi Scott is the star of this film. She plays Sky Riley, who is sort of based on, the pop stars that we know, the Britney Spears, particularly the Lady Gagas of, Lady Gaga's kind of early career. She is a year out from a horrible accident that saw the death of her partner, actor Paul Hudson, played by Ray Nicholson, son of, and she's now on her way back. We were first introduced to her through a television when she appears on the Drew Barrymore show, Drew appearing as herself, and, speaking about how she's battled with sobriety and she's here and she's ready to make amends. We don't get all of the details, we get enough of the details to say, right, she's been through it. But it's not the opening scene. The opening scene, because if you've seen the first film, you'll know that the way the demon passes from victim to victim is by forcing them to view a, horrific murder, suicide, and then usually offing the person. Kyle Gallner reprises his role from the first film as Joel, who is of course the sole survivor of Smile, at least in terms of affected by the demon. And I mean, I was both like, when I first saw it on screen, I was like, oh no, because it can only mean one thing, but it can only mean one thing. The rules of the franchise are written in concrete. So the big opening set piece for this film is it's intense, and it captures the tone of the film, which is there's a pitch black comedy to the whole thing. Now, this is by no means a funny film, but that's not to say that there isn't comedic tones to it. And there certainly is here in this opening scene. I mean, poor Joel. He works so hard. One of the get out clauses, if you like, from this possession is that if you yourself want to avoid dying, what you can do is pass the curse on to someone else by forcing them to witness a murder. And that is what Joel sets out to do. But he does it in, if you like, maybe, oh God, can you say this is good? He finds two pretty rotten people. And his plan is kill one in front of the other, thus passing the curse on to someone he feels deserves it. Well, it goes a bit awry. It almost goes right. You know, he goes to the home, or well, I won't say the home. He goes to the shack of two pretty horrible drug dealer, murderer people. He uses his connections as a policeman to find them. He forces one to watch the other, well, let's just say, die. But that results in a quick shootout that unfortunately leaves Joel's intended target dead. Oh, bugger, thinks Joel, because we see it's 6 days have passed. He's moving into his last day. Things are not looking good, and then Lucas Gage's character, Louis Fergoli, who we've all seen in the trailer, makes a noise behind him, and it's written all over Joel's face. He's like, oh no, I didn't mean for this to happen. But also, things are cut pretty short when the drug dealer's mates arrive back and Joel nips out the window. And I don't want to give it away, but we get a fantastic title sequence just there. Suffice to say, the curse moves on now to Lucas Gage's Louis. From this point on in the film, the narrative shifts to Naomi Scott Sky Riley entirely, and she is a powerhouse in this film. I mean, she does so much. Not only is she playing the role of this pop star, broken human who goes through quite a bit, but she's also singing and dancing on the film's soundtrack as well. Because Naomi Scott is a very accomplished singer. In fact, she's incredible in this film. I can't remember if I was introduced to her first through Aladdin or through the Charlie's Angels remake there. But she is so good. And that is underselling it. She deserves all sorts of awards for this performance. Because Smile 2, in changing up the format, doesn't just do, you know, horror film of a demon stalking a poor person who then has to, you know, try and figure out and go through all the hallmarks. No, what we get is a scathing, stark view of the music industry and how artists are dragged along by the nose hairs, thrown in front of situations they are not prepared for, and offered little to no support from those around them. This is what I mean when I say Smile 2 is a very different film from Smile, where yes, you did have that, you know, the inevitable no one believes me feeling in both films. It feels so much worse here because in the first film, you sort of felt that Rose's, the hell that Rose goes through, if she had chosen to simply go and lock herself in a house for a week, as awful and sad as that would be, in the grand scheme of things, people might have let her do that. Sky Riley doesn't have that option. She's just about to embark on a new world tour. It's her big comeback. This is, you know, her thank you to the fans who have supported her. There's absolutely no way out for her. We are told consistently throughout the film that there are millions and millions of dollars on the line, that her investors, you know, as nice and smiling as everyone is, no one is on her side. So in Smile 2, who is the true smiling demon? Is it the monster who, yes, we do see a reveal of as the film goes on? Or is it the people who were already surrounding Sky? Scott plays the role with a very, I want to say a very human way of depicting. Sky is not exactly the nicest person you want to root for as well. She is clearly still struggling with her sobriety. In fact, of course, this is what leads her to Lewis's apartment and gets her infected by the smile demon, is that the car crash that claimed the life of Paul Hudson and has seriously damaged her body has left her in chronic pain. We see these scars on her body as the film goes on. They're on her back, they're on her stomach, and they're on her knee, which is a very knowing smile-shaped scar just underneath her left knee. Like, she got so badly injured in this crash that the fact that she's doing an all singing, all dancing tour only a year later is nothing short of incredible. The fact that she's a recovering addict, she won't be prescribed anything stronger than Tylenol, so she is seeking Vicodin from Lewis. Now, Lewis, their connection is sort of tenuous. They knew each other in school. She was able to get drugs off him. It's a little bit convenient, I won't lie, that Lewis is the one that she goes to. It's somewhere between the realms of convenient, wasn't it, and not really important. Because one of the things I really get from this film as well is the opportunistic nature of this demon. You know, this demon would have happily gone from person to person, you know, small scale. It's about messing with the victim. It's about really, really ruining everything in their life in the 7 days it takes to kill them. You know, it's not like it had any interest in any particular, you know, station, genre, anything like that. No. Infecting Skye opens up an entirely new world to this demon. In fact, toward the film's climax, the demon says in the form of Skye to Skye, "I like wearing your skin." And it's probably one of the very few moments the demon is given a personality or any kind of defining character trait. Because for the rest of the film, that all the demon is designed to mess with Skye. There is gore in this film, and it's impressive, I'm not gonna lie. We are treated to Skye's car crash, so for those of you who don't like seeing bones protruding from human bodies, and to be honest, I understand if you don't, that would be a scene to look away. But also, in the trailer, so the editing here is quite funny, in the trailer I mean, that Lewis bumps himself off using a weight plate from a weight bench. And the way it's shown in the trailer, I remember the first time I saw it, I went, oh my God, that is ridiculous. And then you see it in the film, and it's not ridiculous. The jerking motion is still there, but what it does now is the camera holds on it. And quite frankly, you see him mash his face into a pulp. It's horrific. And it's so inventive as well, because, you know, all right, maybe I'm wrong for assuming here, but I assume no human being could do that to themselves. You know, at least not the amount of times that Lewis does it to himself. So the fact that it keeps going and it holds on it, and we get Skye's frozen, horrified reaction. It goes from what could be this really silly camp scene to awful, awful, awful. I mean, and you always then have this kind of question of, well, why didn't she just ring the police? You know, why didn't she just ring the bloody authorities? That would make the most sense. But the conceit, the reason she doesn't do that, again, makes sense within the continuity of the film. She has too much on the line. If she rings the police, as Gemma says later on, that means she will forever be linked to the death of a drug dealer, and with her history, she's never coming back from that. You believe that because, quite frankly, it's probably true. It's probably what would happen. And so she goes home, and we see her Googling things like, does vomit contain DNA? Because she chucks up at the scene, as I presume you would. Just, you know, for the record, in case you're wondering, no, I have never watched somebody destroy their own face in front of me and then had to deal with, well, would I call the police or not? So, you know, my confession is that, no, I don't have anything to confess there. I assume I would absolutely hurl my guts up in that scene. As the film goes on, you see the lines blurring. Who is the demon and who are her demons? The Rosemary DeWitt plays Elizabeth Riley, her mother, who is she's sort of a momager, but now she's a little bit less militant than some of the momagers we've been treated to in media over the last few years. And there's sort of it's an almost insidious form of long-suffering mother. Because on the surface, yes, she supports her daughter and she's there for the whole time. But there's this constant undercurrent of take a break, take all the time you need. And by that I mean 24 hours. Because, we go on stage then. And I know, oh, you're looking so well and well done on your rest and you're going to have a lovely holiday, but we just have an event tomorrow. And it's those horrible little moments that really help me increase my sympathy for Skye. And you start to see everyone around her as not one of you have her back. And it's very disturbing. That's one of the things I saw in this film. I've seen some reviews that have described it as a cruel film and quite a cynical film, and I think in a way that's quite accurate. It is cruel what Skye goes through in this movie, and it is a very cynical takedown of the music industry. But also, it doesn't feel like preaching either. Sometimes you can see a takedown of the music industry, and it's a bit like, oh, this is awful, oh, this is awful, oh, this is awful, but somehow I'm just not connecting to the human element of it. Here you do. And the way the demon presents itself to her, it's like a heightened version of the reality in which she is already living. And it gets more and more disturbing as the film goes on. We see Skye, one of the ways she says that she's battling her addictive tendencies is that when she feels the need to use, she will down water, which leads us to one of our first really, what is reality scenes in the film, where one of her glass bottles of Voss water, sponsored by, is smashed on the ground. She goes for the broom. The next thing, she sees what appears to be the discarded clothes of a obsessive fan who came up to her at a meet and greet earlier on. And it's horrible because even in the context of the film, even knowing this is Smile 2 and there's a demon, there's a moment where you go, wait, is she actually being stalked by a fan on top of everything else? That's the kind of situation you find yourself in. This works because Naomi Scott sells it. So much of this is this heightened reality that if the performance devolved into hysteria too quickly, you would, I think, struggle to connect with the character. At no point did I struggle to connect with Skye. And you get more and more scenes then of the people around her who are supposed to support her, kind of falling away. There is one of the slightly weaker elements of the film, with the greatest of respect to performer Miles Gutierrez Riley. The assistant Joshua, I think, is just a little bit too thinly written. It's another extension of, I'm here to do anything for you, but I'm not here for you. But it just doesn't, it's a little bit too thin. So what you get is quite, I feel, a very overly false persona. And it just doesn't really work for me there. Because you see, there's one scene where Skye arrives back to her dressing room and thinks she sees Joshua walking out of it, opens the door, the dressing room is absolutely smashed, and she walks out and, confronts Joshua on the spot. And either the way it's played or the way it's written, it's so false that immediately, if I was standing there, I'd be like, oh no, you clearly did do this. I would never do that. You clearly did. And it was sort of a very small bum note in that scene because, everything around her is conspiring to make her seem crazy. And this leads to one of those scenes with the mother I mentioned, like, oh my God, this room is terrible. Oh, take your time off. Yeah, we're on stage in 10. Dylan Jalua plays Gemma. This is one of Skye's friends from before the accident. We are told and shown in a very small exchange of text that they obviously, turned on each other, called each other parasites. And it broke down completely. But Skye calls her because she sees her as someone from before, someone she can speak to that isn't directly involved in all of the touring and, you know, the press tours and everything. Someone that she can speak to. Gemma does pick up, and Skye very quickly apologizes, and Gemma comes around and, actually, I forgive you. It's fine. And it's one of the really nice moments of the film, because also the way Dylan plays it, she's so aggressively Gen Z that it's so well done. Like, she gets some of the great lines of the film. At one point, Skye says, "We have to get to Staten Island," and Gemma's reaction is, "Staten Island, ew." It's just like, what? Sorry, everyone who lives in Staten Island watching this, but the way Dylan delivers it is so funny. I mean, that's what I mean, like, these moments of black humor that just run all the way through. And what you have then is this supportive character. So when the Smile Demon, in the form of Gemma, calls Skye a horrible person and starts to smile, it hits that bit more, because you feel, oh no, Gemma actually supports her. So to have her turn around and turn on Skye is horrific. Now, that is revealed to be an illusion. You know, Skye comes out of it and you think, at least she's still got one person. Anyway, one of the big set pieces of the film, Skye has to give an address to a charity, you know, Hope Through Music, a bunch of young people in a room. This is organized by one of the main sponsors of her tour, played by Raul Castillo, who I remember from HBO's Looking. It does not go well. So the demon messes with the teleprompter. She's told in advance, you'll have pre-recorded or pre-written remarks, you'll be fine. There's a very clever little moment. It's so subtle. She is, she has a moment or two where she's, oh my God. And she just does this. And it just wipes a little bit of the lipstick down there. And I mean, I have worn makeup for things in the past. It's very easy to smudge, you know what I mean? So in real life, you get a little bit of smudged makeup and, you don't. Skye doesn't have the option to look anything less than perfect because she's being judged on absolutely everything. So before she even walks out on stage, the demon's got her because the demon has made her look like she's cracking. So she walks out on stage, she's introduced, she's there delivering her speech, teleprompter freezes. So she attempts to deliver an impromptu speech, which leads into effectively a breakdown as to how don't go into the music industry because you won't have support. You won't have the people around you who you need for your stability. And again, this is I think this is the most obvious scene where it is a horror movie about a demon that smiles at you and stalks you, but this is about the entertainment industry and how people get used up and spat out. She sees Paul Hudson staring at her, which causes another breakdown and leads to, again, a very blackly humorous moment where she knocks the presenter, who happens to be an elderly lady, off the stage. There's kind of, at this point, Skye might not be dead. Her career is. And it's kind of, and you're just like, my sympathies for her just keep dialing up. I've just watched her knock an old lady off the stage, and it's her I feel bad for. That's how this film sells it. Perhaps the other big moment of it's the industry is the dancer's set piece in her apartment when the Smile Demon takes the form of all of her dancers. The scene opens with, it looks like she's had enough. She's grabbing her bag, she's getting out of there, she turns on the light. A fraction of this scene was in the trailer. And again, out of context, there's one moment where it looks kind of hilarious, really. In context, it is utterly, utterly horrifying. And because the camera holds on it, so much of horror is done with slash cuts and blink and you'll miss them. Smile doesn't do that. It has moments of it, but it doesn't do that. It holds on the horror. And they overpower her. They hold her down. They lift her up. It is, in essence, a very messed up dance sequence. Hands grabbing at her the whole time. They injure her. They slam her face, quite telling you, into her piano, into the music. It could just as easily be you know, a heightened sense of, how many times have I said the word heightened now in this review, but a heightened sense of this is what performers go through. The entire reason she went to Lewis in the first place is the pain she felt from the dancing she needs to do for this tour. It's quite upsetting in a way, because I truly feel that if the demon decided, do you know what, actually, I'm going to leave Skye, I wouldn't be convinced that she would have a long and happy life regardless. She wakes up at this wellness center, i.e. get yourself together because you're going on tour, you need rehab, but you need to do it quietly. And in the room, we have Joshua and we have her mother, which... So this leads to the scene that could devolve into a bit of ridiculousness, right? Just for context, she has met another person who knows of the small demon's identity. He said, there's a way around it, we kill you. And she's like, can we have an option B? And he goes, no, we just stop your heart long enough for it to, you know, treating the demon like a parasite. It dies without a living host. She, you know, at the time kind of goes, so you're crazy and I'm leaving. But here in the wellness center, so much goes wrong so quickly. She starts to see that that is her only option. And this is where the film teeters, because it could move into ridiculous here. You know, having her grab the gun from a security guard is like, okay, where are we going with this, Skye? The fact it works, I'm going to say, is because Naomi sells it. It's close. It's close. It could go too ridiculous, but I do think she sells it. She ends up at, as she says, an abandoned Pizza Hut. You know, again, she says, oh my God, I'm going to die in the freezer of an abandoned Pizza Hut. It is quite funny. You know, we get a couple of wink, that door doesn't open once you close it from the inside. And we get sort of the beginning of the final confrontation here. This is when the demon appears as she appeared during that car crash that we discover she caused. Now, both herself and Paul were on drugs. They were very drunk. They, you know, obviously shouldn't have been in the car anyway. But she grabbed the wheel in the fit of an argument. And that's something she has lived with, her guilt for the year. The demon plays with that. And, you know, it's just what should be this heroic moment where she says to the demon, you're not in control, I am. She bites the demon's thumbs off as it begins to try and open her mouth and injects the killer drug, just for brevity's sake there, into herself, going, this is it. Only, of course, it isn't. The ending of this film is so bleak that I think if they went any other way, it would have done a disservice to everything we had seen before. And having it end the way that it does, you get this sense of glee from the demon. And also, I mean, not only that, but they've set themselves up for sequels galore for, you know, years to come. But it was awful and brilliant at the same time. This is a film that you should, I mean, if you've come this far and you haven't seen the film, okay, sorry about all the spoilers, do watch it. And if for nothing else, watch it for Naomi Scott. She is mesmerizing in this film. From her first scene to the last scene, you are with her on this journey. She is so good in the musical sequences as well. Do check out, funny enough, check out the EP that they've released to go along with this film, the Skye Riley EP. There's 6 tracks in it. I've been listening to it on repeat since I've seen the film. I hope that this film gets the recognition it deserves. Horror tends to not get recognized when it comes to awards seasons. But I hope that this one does, because it deserves it. It is a superb sequel. I believe it is an improvement on the first film in almost every way, which I really enjoyed the first film regardless. And if they manage to continue very cleverly playing with genre when it comes to sequels, I am now more on board for a Smile 3, if indeed one comes. It is currently in theaters. Do check it out. Thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. and let us know in the comments below what you thought. I have been Sean from What Culture Horror. Please make sure you're following us on all the various socials. I am at Sean Ferrick. We are at What Culture Horror. Make sure that you're subscribed. I will see you again soon.